Recording has started, and get this going. If you, let me just make sure that this is going to work, or I play the whole thing. Sometimes it doesn't. I don't want to have you all sit.
Okay, or you can just move it back.
Share screen, optimize for video. Okay, you all see that?
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay, I'll play it for a minute and just make sure it's working.
We are losing our listening. We spend roughly...
Okay, is that working for everybody?
Yep.
Okay. I will restart it and then optimize it. Here we go.
We are losing our listening. We spend roughly 60% of our communication time listening, but we're not very good at it. We retain just 25% of what we hear. Now, not you, not this talk, but that is generally true. Let's define listening as making meaning from sound. It's a mental process, and it's a process of extraction. We use some pretty cool techniques to do this. One of them is pattern recognition. So in a cocktail party like this, if I say, David, Sarah, pay attention, some of you just sat up. We recognize patterns to distinguish noise from signal, and especially our name. Differencing is another technique we use. If I left this pink noise on for more than a couple of minutes, you would literally cease to hear it. We listen to differences, we discount sounds that remain the same. And then there is a whole range of filters. These filters take us from all sound down to what we pay attention to. Most people are entirely unconscious of these filters, but they actually create our reality in a way because they tell us what we're paying attention to right now. I'll give you one example of that. Intention is very important in sound, in listening. When I married my wife, I promised her that I would listen to her every day as if for the first time. Now that's something I fall short of on a daily basis. But it's a great intention to have in a relationship. But that's not all. Sound places us in space and in time. If you close your eyes right now in this room, you're aware of the size of the room from the reverberation and the bouncing of the sound off the surfaces. And you're aware of how many people are around you because of the micro noises you're receiving. And sound places us in time as well, because sound always has time embedded in it. In fact, I would suggest that our listening is the main way that we experience the flow of time from past to future. So, sonority is time and meaning, a great quote. I said at the beginning, we're losing our listening. Why did I say that? Well, there are a lot of reasons for this. First of all, we invented ways of recording. First writing, then audio recording, and now video recording as well. The premium on accurate and careful listening has simply disappeared. Secondly, the world is now so noisy. With this cacophony going on visually and auditorily, it's just hard to listen. It's tiring to listen. Many people take refuge in headphones, but they turn big public spaces like this, shared soundscapes, into millions of tiny little personal sound bubbles. In this scenario, nobody's listening to anybody. We're becoming impatient. We don't want oratory anymore, we want sound bites. And the art of conversation is being replaced, dangerously, I think, by personal broadcasting. I don't know how much listening there is in this conversation, which is sadly very common, especially in the UK. We're becoming desensitized. Our media have to scream at us with these kind of headlines in order to get our attention. And that means it's harder for us to pay attention to the quiet, the subtle, the understated. This is a serious problem that we're losing our listening. This is not trivial, because listening is our access to understanding. Conscious listening always creates understanding. And only without conscious listening can these things happen. A world where we don't listen to each other at all is a very scary place indeed. So I'd like to share with you 5 simple exercises, tools you can take away with you to improve your own conscious listening. Would you like that? Good. The first one is silence. Just 3 minutes a day of silence is a wonderful exercise to reset your ears and to recalibrate so that you can hear the quiet again. If you can't get absolute silence, go for quiet. That's absolutely fine. Second, I call this the mixer. So even if you're in a noisy environment like this, and we all spend a lot of time in places like this, listen in the coffee bar to how many channels of sound can I hear? How many individual channels in that mix am I listening to? You can do it in a beautiful place as well, like a lake. How many birds am I hearing? Where are they? Where are those ripples? It's a great exercise for improving the quality of your listening. Third, this exercise I call savoring, and this is a beautiful exercise. It's about enjoying mundane sounds. This, for example, is my tumble dryer. It's a waltz. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I love it. Or just try this one on for size. Wow. So mundane sounds can be really interesting if you pay attention. I call that the hidden choir. It's around us all the time. The next exercise is probably the most important of all of these. If you just take one thing away, this is listening positions. The idea that you can move your listening position to what's appropriate to what you're listening to. This is playing with those filters. You remember I gave you those filters at the beginning? It's starting to play with them as levers, to get conscious about them and to move to different places. These are just some of the listening positions or scales of listening positions that you can use. There are many. Have fun with that. It's very exciting. And finally, an acronym. You can use this in listening, in communication. If you're in any one of those roles, and I think that probably is everybody who's listening to this talk. The acronym is RASA, which is the Sanskrit word for juice or essence. And RASA stands for receive, which means pay attention to the person, appreciate, making little noises like, oh, okay. Summarize, the word so is very important in communication, and ask questions afterwards. Now, sound is my passion, it's my life. I wrote a whole book about it, so I live to listen. That's too much to ask for most people. But I believe that every human being needs to listen consciously in order to live fully. Connected in space and in time to the physical world around us, connected in understanding to each other, not to mention spiritually connected, because every spiritual path I know of has listening and contemplation at its heart. That's why we need to teach listening in our schools as a skill. Why is it not taught? It's crazy. And if we can teach listening in our schools, we can take our listening off that slippery slope to that dangerous, scary world that I talked about and move it to a place where everybody is consciously listening all the time, or at least capable of doing it. Now, I don't know how to do that, but this is TED. And I think the TED community is capable of anything. So I invite you to connect with me, connect with each other, take this mission out, and let's get listening taught in schools and transform the world in one generation to a conscious listening world, a world of connection, a world of understanding, and a world of peace. Thank you for listening to me today.
All right. My question to you is, should listening be taught in schools? And if so, why? And if not, why? And everybody, some of you are muted, so just unmute yourself. Kathy, you're muted.
I think the why is, if you look at the age of the people taking this class, and we are still struggling with how do you listen in a quality way, then that tells you that this class should have started quite a few decades ago.
Well, and so now when you talk about generations, you think about kids, just like he mentioned, that all of their communication is electronic. So no, they don't know how to listen because they don't even use words.
Mhm.
You know, everything is text with no, like we talked about in one of the early classes, no facial expression, no body language, no inflection, no anything. So yeah, I think a listening class would be great. I mean, I shared with Tony how much this has meant to me just 4 short weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to see kids learn to emphasize it.
Mhm.
Anyone else?
I think yes. And I haven't finished the book, but I've gotten to the point where the effective validation and the fact that to really validate others' feelings, you have to be in contact, connected to your own feelings and be able to identify them. And that's a work in itself. And I think that kids, as they're learning how to feel 20,000 things at once, if they were taught to or help to identify their own feelings, they might be able to work through them better for starters, and then be helpful to friends. And the grade school, high school age is so in need of friends.
Mhm.
I find it amazing that this is exactly what I spend most of my time in therapy about, is things that have been spoken to me or I wish to speak to other people and cannot communicate them correctly. And that being said, I spend a lot of time trying to do this correctly and fail miserably regularly. And I was a salesman, so I was words and are my tools, and yet I still don't understand the listening part of it as well as I should. So that's why there's no question it should be taught in school. That's a no-brainer, yet it is not.
Mhm.
But there are so many things that are not taught in school that need to be taught. So
Mhm. Yeah,
that's
right.
that's why parents come in.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that is the
And grandparents
and
and
grandparents.
great grandparents, because what we can do is, we're probably not going to be able to get Port Townsend schools to start a listening program. Who knows though, maybe, but what we can do is we have kids that we interact with in our lives, and we can set the example, and that's how kids learn. Right? We can take this stuff and use it with kids in our lives, and we're teaching them just by modeling listening to them.
Well, it's one of the things that I know, you talk about grandparents, the 4-year-old and us are learning to, we're practicing this listening.
Oh, I failed the other day. If you want to hear a failure.
Yeah, let's hear a failure.
So who knows what we were talking about, but we were just sitting there, face to face, talking about something, a plan to play or do, it didn't matter, but, and he was all excited and I was all excited and he was telling me something and I kind of jumped in and interrupted him with my enthusiastic, oh, and we could do so and so and so. And all of a sudden in his way of kind of pushing back against that was all of a sudden his language changed to baby talk. It was this really weird affected baby words coming out. I mean, the same word syntax and everything. I mean, the quality of the words, the sentences were the same, but it was done in this really weird babyish talk. And then I stopped and I don't know what I said to him. And he said, "You interrupted me."
Oh, really?
Yeah, he called me. I interrupted and I said, you are right. I did. I am so sorry. Please continue and I will listen. And he dropped that baby talk and just continued. It
Hmm.
was weird, but man, it was a slap in the
Wow.
face. It's like, you interrupted.
How
So,
about that?
yeah,
And this is a 4-year-old.
yeah.
So that, talk about validating, talk about,
Yeah, right.
all of these things that we're talking about.
Just how
They know
important-
about it then. Because and we've been working a lot on this, listening to the other person, looking, because he doesn't like to look at you when he talks, and express, and all these. And I'm sitting here going, because she related that to me, and we have these moments where, Pop, you interrupted me.
Mhm.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah. No, I fully believe that if I can model this stuff for Miriam and Lydia, they're going to be successful in life.
yeah,
Because if they can be good listeners, they're going to go a long, long way.
one way. It's a
Well,
gift.
Yeah, to me too, it's like developing habits.
Yeah.
Well, you develop a habit to get up and make your bed in the morning. You develop a habit to wash the dishes after a meal. And so why not get into the habit of listening and doing your part to make life go a little bit easier?
Mhm. Yeah, and the great thing is it's gonna, I just say you're not only gonna be giving that gift to others,
Mhm.
you're giving it to yourself, because it's
Sure.
gonna make your life easier too.
Yeah.
I won't go into detail, but I had an issue that happened this week, and somebody who was really, really upset. And I think it's because I'm teaching this class right now that I was more mindful at the time to be able to immediately throw on my listening hat. And I started right into it, and kind of took a deep breath as this anger was coming my direction. And I did so what I hear you're saying, and and I can tell you're really angry right now, and those kind of things. I never solved anything. There were lots of things I wanted to say in the moment. I just listened, and the next day I got an email thanking me so much for listening in the midst of the anger, apologizing for their, just said, and that was the end of it. And telling me how they were going to fix the situation. If I hadn't done that, I have no idea what the outcome would have been, but I don't think it would have been that.
Yeah.
So it saved, not only was the person appreciative, that even though there was lots of stuff I wanted to say in that moment, to justify myself or my thinking, or to tell the person why they were wrong, and if I had done that, I would have had a lot of grief, and would have had a lot more issues to have to deal with. And it turns out that, by doing it, they took it upon themselves to fix it. They did it, and this is a pastor situation, so I won't go into any more detail, but I didn't have to fix it. I didn't have to fix it.
Bonus round.
I fixed it. I fixed it by listening. So, I just say that we call it giving the gift of listening, but you're giving the gift to yourself as well. By doing this, you will benefit from it. So it's not completely a selfless act, but it is. But that's how it is. When we serve God, we always get something out of it. Always, never fails. So we have. I'm going to end us at 7 today, so that gives us 35 minutes. So I don't really have a specific agenda. I'm just wondering what might be helpful for you as we end our time together. We could do a practice listening again, so you can kind of see us walk, somebody walking through that. If somebody wants to try doing that, just to, and we could kind of pause as we go through it and give some positive criticism about comments. We could take it that direction. We could also spend our time talking about the book if you're really interested in talking about the book. And I'd like for you all to kind of lead that discussion though, just because I think it would, I'll spend so much time. I'm sure you have a lot to say or think about it. So which one of those two sound better? And we'll kind of do a vote and go in those directions. I saw Beth nod about the book, saying yes about the book. And Zoanne, and okay, so let's talk about the book. So your reaction to the book.
Well, I'm not through. I've very much enjoyed it, and I'm on page 79, which would tell me that, and I had a conversation with Kelly the other night, that I would so love to continue, if we all had time, the delving into this and the conversations. But I think it's so much of this is nearly seems self-evident, but when you read it, you realize how important it is, and the different aspects of it, particularly the difference between sympathy and validation, and being in the feeling and being outside the feeling. I'm still having a little identification with, I understand that you have to really understand the feeling that's being experienced by the other person, even if you don't agree with it. And therein lies, I think, something I have gotten a little deeper into, is that I'm not a real big fan of pity poor me, either from me or hearing from other people. But I think this has taught me that even though somebody is really feeling sorry for themselves, they have every reason to feel that way. And that's what we need to connect with, is to get away from the suck it up and be a grown up, pull up your socks and tell yourself a joke. And realizing that those feelings are so real and substantial. And the only way for a person to pull up their socks and tell themselves a joke is to have someone appreciate their feelings and then allow them to move through them. So that's been a big moment for me.
Yeah, and think about it from the point of view of like a counselor. You go to a counselor and talk to a counselor. Think about how a counselor would respond to what you said as a pity party. The counselor might think in their head, wow, this sounds like a real pity party. But they're going to respond by listening to their emotions, validating their emotions, and helping them to hear their emotions. And I think, and I think that I've heard this kind of as being the, I've heard this come up even in the last time I've taught this years ago. When you're sitting with somebody and you just have this real visceral reaction to what they're saying, what they're feeling, and dealing with that. And
visceral negative reaction.
Negative reaction. Yeah, you really have a lot of judgment. I think that's the appropriate word. You have a lot of judgment toward them, whether you're right or not. It comes out as you're thinking they shouldn't be thinking this way, they shouldn't be feeling this way, or it's wrong to think this way, or it's wrong to feel this way. And it may be that's a possibility. And I think what I keep trying to stress is you listening to them and validating their feelings, again, does not mean that you agree with them. And there can be a time after the listening, after the listening is complete and you've validated them, there is a time that you can come back and say, can I tell you from my point of view, kind of how I see things? And that's okay. But what I'm asking us to do is hold on a minute, get through the listening part, and then if we feel the need to share, a response to somebody who we have this real visceral reaction, about because we really disagree with them, or we just don't think it's fair or just what they're thinking. But I'm asking us to hold that, think about the well, I just say if we can hold that, it's going to solve a lot of issues for us and for them. And so that can be so difficult. I hear you, I understand you, whether it's that they're mad at you for something and you want to immediately justify yourself. That tends to be our reaction. We have to justify why we did such and such, and to sit there and listen to somebody who is upset with us and who's angry at us. I've done this before where I've said, okay, I've heard what you said. We've gone through everything. Can I tell you my side of the story now? And now they're willing to listen to me. And I don't know if they would have been willing to listen to me if I hadn't gone through that process with them in the first place. Even if I was, okay, so even if I was right and they were in the wrong, they weren't going to hear it, but they're going to hear it now because I gave them the floor and they were able to get out all the stuff that they wanted to say and all that they were thinking. And it takes us being big boys and girls. It does. We have to be, we have to be the grown-up sometimes, those situations, and not treat them like children, but we have to be willing. I think when Jesus says, turn the other cheek, that might be an appropriate time to think about, turn the other cheek so the ear can open. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
And there will be a time
Yeah.
to be able to do that. So no, I totally hear what you're saying, and I get it.
I think the lesson is that it doesn't matter whether the person is reasonable in their feelings. What matters is that they're feeling it and it's real.
It's real.
And you have to appreciate that before you can go anywhere else. He does talk in here, and I know about listening as if people were children, and not
picturing them as a child, like
Yeah.
when you're having a conversation, picture them as a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
And how much that can change our willingness to listen to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I've
think
been
one of the
using
other
this-
things is
Oh, go ahead.
feeling.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I think one of the hard things to do is while you're listening is to peel that what the emotion is that they're really feeling. The various layers.
Yeah.
And that's truly, I think, part of this whole validation process that the book talks about, is peeling those layers back to find what the real issue is. Because so often the anger is directed, especially anger is directed at me, and it has absolutely nothing to do with me. I happen to be the appropriate, I said hi.
Right, yeah.
And the rest is history, so to speak. but it's peeling back that anger to find out what is the underlying emotion. Because once you understand that, you've truly listened to the person. And that's what I'm aiming for. That's where I'm, trying to, because I go, Zoanne, I go straight to pull up. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear it. It's bull. I mean, you know what I'd say. and to have to go this 180 Kevin O'Shea is fun. Let's just put it that way. It's a lot of fun.
It's a big deal.
But that's what I thought was interesting. Where I was going in the book was I felt his validations and how to validate, and it's hard, man. It's just, this is work. This is real work. Listening is real work, and I never looked at it that way. So
Yeah, I've been able to use it with the kids, with our foster kids, and I spent time with them yesterday, and oh God, it was amazing. And when I left, they said, "Can we come to your house? Can we spend the night? Can we? And I said, I wanted to say yes because they're out of school and I'm got a house full of company and going to. And so I thought about this book and I said, I hear that this is really, really important to you. And it's important to me too. And I'm not going to say I promise until I know when, because when I say to you, I promise, I will promise. Right now, I can't promise, but I hear, and I kept thinking, I kept hearing all of you. I said, but I hear that this is a big deal and it's important to you and it's important to me. And what I do promise is it will happen. I just can't promise quite when. But I thought I might not have said, I hear this is really important to you if we hadn't started this work.
Yeah, and what they got from that is that Zoanne gets us, right? Zoanne understands us. Yeah. And and maybe they don't get to come over, but they know that you get them. They know that you understand them.
Yeah,
And that's
they
you
call
know
me
that you-
Grandma's easy, which is
you-
really sweet.
well, and they knew that you wanted to do it, even if that's the whole thing. So often I have to look at little guy and say, yeah, I hear you. This is where we want to go. We can't go. It's not going to happen, or whatever.
Yeah.
But they'll keep coming back to you if you're. I hear you. I get it. I want to do it too, but I can't. They what?
Right now.
Yeah,
but
right this
we
minute.
will.
Right,
But
but
we
it will happen.
Yeah. Anyway.
Anyone else? Thoughts or reflections in the book?
More off on the side crap.
Well, I had wished that we started this class about 2 weeks earlier because, with wonderful hindsight, I had a situation with my best friend who does love a good pity party. And we've been friends for almost 40 years. And she really likes to, and I don't know what it is. So we had an incident where she was just really emotional, and work is stressful and home is stressful. And she has young adult children that have moved back in, and there's a grant. I mean, it's like, it's a big thing. It's a whole bunch. And when she does, and she's done it before, is when she gets, and she just gets all twirly with all this stuff that's going on in her head. And then she gets melodramatic. And her favorite thing to say is, I must have just been a terrible parent. I it's the only explanation. I was a terrible parent. And so and maybe it was just the day. And like I say, this is before this class. I just kind of cut her off. And I just said, you need to stop doing, you need to stop. You need to stop that, like right now. And part of it, we're like sisters, like I say, almost 40 years that we've been friends. And And I just kind of let it go. I just kind of cut her off. And then I moved on and we talked more about the situation, but I cut off that pity. And after this, I just thought, I'd love to have a do-over.
Oh, that's so
And,
sweet.
but now it's like, now I have to wait for her to get back into a mood like that and do that again.
Yeah.
You know, I can't come up with a way to go back and say, hey, remember last month when I was really kind of rude to you?
Yeah, but
Um,
Cal, since you know her so well, you know it's just gonna come around again.
Oh, it will.
Look at-
No, it is.
It will.
It will.
You know, I
It
have,
will. That's guaranteed.
I have some
So, I
friends
mean,
like that. That's why I know.
I guess I will be able to do it better. Maybe not right, but I'll be able to do better the next time. But man, I would love to go back and just apologize. And maybe I still should.
Yeah, and see, I think that's the thing is, I don't think this stuff is so hard. I think the hard part is remembering to do it.
Yeah,
You know, I think I
in the
we can-
moment.
in the
Yeah.
moment, we can, and it doesn't even have to be that we're angry or frustrated in the moment. It's just in the moment, sometimes we just forget to like put on our listening cap, you know, and it's like, when we remember it, it's pretty easy, you know. It's not that you have to have a PhD in this stuff to do it. Of course, again, all the skills can help, and can make us better listeners, but it's the intention, having that intention, setting that intention. I liked that's one of the reasons that guy, he gave those sort of 5 things you can do every day. So let me ask you this, let's share with others, how can we remember this? Not all the stuff, but how can we remember to put our listening caps on? What practical steps could we do so that 2 months down the road, you know, if I were to ask you, how's the listening stuff going? You maybe you wouldn't say, oh, it's been 2 months, I forgot all about doing that. You know, what could we do? Marlene's talking, but you're muted. Hold on, Marlene.
Well, maybe
Okay, go ahead, Marlene.
remember that good listening will resolve the issue and you won't have to go over it again.
Okay, so remembering, yeah, telling yourself this is going to save me time. Yeah, this is going to say, and yeah, good. Marlene.
I was saying that I think stopping before you say anything, stopping and take a breath, and then turn in tune to them then, because I think it's so easy just to let out what you want to say so fast, you know. But if you stop and take a breath first, and then started to, you know, listen to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm gonna give you a dumb one. Put a rubber band around your wrist.
Funny. I was thinking about making us all bracelets.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Well,
That just popped in my head as you said that. Yeah.
I know, because I do that when I have a particular thing I have fallen into. And no, I don't want to do it anymore. I put a rubber band around my wrist and I whack my wrist when I do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
wrist.
Yeah.
And by the way, it works really well.
Yeah. So maybe there's something you can put somewhere on your bathroom mirror in the morning, or in your car, or something that you see every day on your wrist, you know, just to be that physical reminder, because we will forget. We do. I mean, because we function the other way all the time. So we need a daily reminder to bring us back to it. I don't know what that might be.
That man's acronym is not bad, the RASA.
Rasa?
Because the received was to listen, right?
Uh-huh. Receive.
Do you say Rasa every morning?
I've never heard the word, so no.
What were the acronym stand?
I wrote it down. That's the only reason I know. Receive, appreciate,
Appreciate. Summarize.
ask.
Ask. And that sounds a lot like that listening cycle that I gave you.
Yes.
It's just a simpler way to memorize it, I think.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Receive,
Appreciate,
appreciate, summarize,
summarize, ask.
ask. Okay.
but
Good.
then I'd have to remember this. So
The R in Rasa is remember.
put a tattoo.
Yeah, just remember.
Write that scripture, if scripture verses are things for you that's important to you, write that scripture verse down. The one that gives an answer before listening is a fool. And put that on your bathroom mirror. That's if scripture does it for you.
Some, yeah.
Proverbs 18, I think it's Proverbs 18:3, but I may be
An
wrong.
answer before listening is what?
The one who gives an answer before listening is a fool.
So what?
Fool.
Oh, fool.
Yeah, yeah.
That's good. That is good.
Yeah.
Whoever wrote that was really smart.
Some might say God.
Ah.
Some might.
Any other thoughts about the book or any success stories? Thanks for the failure stories. Any failure stories?
Absolutely, just today.
Yeah.
Just today I used it, and I had a customer who was complaining about his window not sliding nicely. So I let him go through the entire thing using all of these, and I asked him how he felt about it, and I did all of that, and he thanked me on the way out for listening to his complaint. By the way, I had to fix nothing. The window worked perfectly. He suddenly was able to operate it
Oh.
purely by having him describe how difficult it was, and then doing it with him and showing him little tricks and does this work? And so it was hilarious because I went through it in my head. I said, okay, perfect time to practice. Let's try. And so there you go.
Kevin gets an A.
And
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
funnier part was there was nothing wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, it's rare that I can walk into a situation where something isn't wrong. Usually something's mucked up in the window. And in this particular case, it was perfect. But he had a problem and nobody would listen to him.
Yeah.
And he said that out. The contractor just won't listen. I said, well, tell me about it.
Oh, that's a perfect example of you shouldn't try to fix it.
Right.
Because you listened to him and he fixed it himself by realizing that he was maybe uptight and
He just wasn't sure. He wasn't sure.
Mhm. Good.
And it was so funny because I started giggling. I'm driving out and I'm going, I'm driving by Tony's house. I should just stop in and say, it works.
It works.
And then leave, and he's like, what the hell was that?
Good for you. Yeah. I think body posture has been a good lesson. We all know it. We've all been taught if you replicate someone else's body posture. But I did cross my arms the other day while I was listening to somebody, and they weren't fussing about anything, and it really wasn't even relevant. But it was. I realized that it was physically comfortable for me to do that. And then I thought, no, don't do that one. Put your arms down. And it didn't make a big difference in the moment, but it was a learning process.
Yeah, right. It was that physical cue to them that you were open rather than closed. Even if you weren't mentally closed, that physical cue, it's like, did you hear him talk about the I think I may have mentioned this before, but the cell phone,
Oh, yeah.
just having it on the table. Do you see that part in the book, or
Yes.
just having it on the table reduces the level of communication?
Yeah.
Even if you're a perfect trained counselor who knows how to do listening 100%, just having this out takes away from it. And after I read that in the book, I didn't know that until I read that in the book. I didn't even think about it. Now I'm always putting this in my pocket. Usually what I do is when I go, I sit and put it on the table in front of me. Sitting, to have lunch with somebody or something, the phone's sitting right there.
Oh, yeah.
It goes in my pocket now. And it makes total sense. If this is sitting out, it's saying my brain is somewhere else right now, or it's waiting to be somewhere else right now.
Yeah.
And you don't have the floor. As soon as this thing rings or vibrates, you're gone.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, body language is a huge, huge part of it.
Yeah.
Sally?
I haven't been able to participate much or even read much of the book. But last night I dreamt about being an active listener. Sat on the table with my friend. I had it in my head that this was important. There was something going on, and kind of matched her. And I thought somewhere, even though I've had little exposure, it's sinking in. So
I'm curious, in massage therapy, do they do any kind of active listening training for you all?
well, I don't remember doing any.
Okay.
Yeah.
It would be wise to include that in the curriculum for sure.
I asked my physical therapist, she said no.
Isn't that crazy? And what if, in a physical therapist, the only way they know how to help you is by listening to you.
Yeah.
Because they can't get inside your head. Well, you've heard, I hope that you see I'm really passionate about this stuff, because I believe that when people say to me, there's so many problems in the world, I don't know what I can do. I give money, I just don't know what I can do. And my immediate thing is like, I want to teach you to be a better listener, because we have no idea, I think, how much listening to people that we interact with on a daily basis really has the opportunity to the potential to change the world. And that might sound far-fetched and overblown, but when we sing that song at the end of every service, let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me, we can be peacemakers by being listeners, and so it can begin with us, and we can start it right now. I would love to see our church be a place where people feel like they're heard, where people feel like they're listened to, because it tells them that they matter, that they care, that, and we say, go pray to God, we should do prayer to God and all that stuff. And that's, of course, that's a good thing. Don't get me wrong, but people always, I just wonder if God's even listening. And so we can be the, yes, I will show you that God is listening, because I'm going to care about you enough to listen to you, and I'm going to be the ears of God in your life. So it really is. And what I love about it too is that anybody can do it. You can be rich, you can be poor, you can be young, you can be elderly, you can be healthy, you can be sick. Everybody can do this stuff. It's a couple of classes, not even a couple of classes, just the attention to give people kind of set in your mind that I'm going to be a listener. And it doesn't cost you anything. It might take a little bit of time, but really I think it doesn't, because it's going to end up saving you time in the long run, probably. Good things are going to come to you. It's just such a win-win situation for everybody. So I would say I appreciate you all giving your time and allowing me to teach it, because when I teach it, man, all of a sudden I become a great listener again, because I'm going back over this stuff again. It's like, I know this stuff, man, I forgot to do it, and then, and now, man, for the past 4 weeks, I have been just an amazing listener.
I am the best.
And I hope I can continue to say that. I like Zoanne's idea, kind of like, where do we go from here, sort of thing. And that's something really, to think about, because where do we go from here? If listening is such an important skill, it should be taught in school. What does that say about how we should be implementing that in the ministry of our church? How should we be doing something on an ongoing basis to equip our church to be good listeners? Because it helps us as a congregation in interacting with each other, with all the committees and the way they function and everything, but it also helps us to show the love of God to one another and to the community. So just having this as a one done 4 class and it's over, I think kind of maybe misses the potential power that we have to be able to unleash. Spirit
That's
of
what
God.
Zoanne and I were talking about. It really just feels like it, yeah, like we need to, whether it be an ongoing thing or even just like a wrap up after the holidays and everybody's had a chance to finish the book, something. It does feel like we need to continue.
Yeah.
Well, I think
agree.
we're all, oh, go ahead. Sorry. You first.
Somebody said, I agree.
That was just me. I said, I
Just saying
agree.
you agree. Okay.
If
do.
nothing else, we're all active in the community in one way or another with different groups. And just to have the opportunity to come together periodically and say, okay, this worked for me, or this didn't work for me, or I don't know what to do now.
Mhm.
And besides, you guys may be the only people in the world who'll ever listen to me. I don't want to let you go.
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we start with this? Let's say sometime toward the end of January, beginning of February, we'll do just a sort of gather again for an hour on Zoom and chat. We'll give everybody a chance to finish the book by then, and maybe we'll have some cool stories. And it will also say, we're going to ask in a month, how have you been doing with it? And that maybe that's our final thing. I don't know. Maybe somebody comes up with an idea of how this can become more in the church life. What I will do is I will take all 4 of these videos, and I've only sent them out so far to the people who are taking the class, but I will share the link for everybody in the church. So if they want to, they can go back and watch these.
If we approve.
If you're okay with it. Yeah, because you are being recorded.
Oh, dear Lord, that's right.
I just wanted everybody to know that orange is still not my favorite color.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I know it's recorded. Boy, was she surprised when I called her that night. Orange? Really? So I just thought I'd let everybody know that, yes, you have been recorded and I will remember.
I'm
So-
thinking we should call it rust, and you're going to feel a
No,
lot
it's
better about it.
It's all about the spin.
It's all about the spin, right? So, but anyway, I just, I
Thank
wanted
you.
to make sure everybody was on okay with that, Tony.
Yeah, is that okay with everybody for me to share with the church?
The answer is yes.
Yes, okay, so so look for sometime in January, look for an invite to an hour-long Zoom conversation. Sometime toward the end of January, February, and that will kind of keep us all accountable.
Yeah.
To know that we're going to have to come back and kind of report, and this will give us a month to practice after the holidays and just see what happens, and then we'll decide from there what do we do. So
Sounds good.
good.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Tony.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you,
This
Tony.
has been great.
Wonderful. And everybody
Yes.
else.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, all.
You are so welcome. Thank you all. Have a good night.
All right. Have a good night.
night.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.